Welcome to the SPC family, and we hope you have a long and rewarding career. The safety and concern of our workers and subcontractors is very important to all of us at SPC. This video will give you a good overall safety orientation and help you recognize and avoid job site hazards. The key to everyone's safety is for you to recognize hazards and know how to properly address them. The National Safety Council says that 95% of all injuries are caused by the actions of the employee. That means 95 out of 100 work-related injuries are caused by the injured worker's own actions. Our safety program has evolved over the years to not only comply with OSHA rules, but to add additional layers of safety using best practices. By following our safety rules and using a little common sense, you have a much better chance of going home unhurt every day. You are responsible for always working safely, following all safety rules and procedures, and to immediately report any unsafe conditions to your crew and supervisor. We are asking for your commitment to always work safely and always be aware of your safety responsibilities. After you've completed this video, additional training by your orientation supervisor will be required before you can begin work, and other training will be required from time to time as rules, materials, equipment, and processes change. Here are some general safety rules to remember. First rule, you are the key to your safety. Rule number 2, don't break our safety rules. Never take unsafe shortcuts. They will hurt you. Our rules are here to protect you and those around you. Our first priority is for everyone to always work safely. We want you to go home to your family and loved ones uninjured every day. Number 3, always wear your PPE when on a job site. Number 4, don't do anything you believe to be unsafe, even if you're being told to do it. If you aren't sure how to do something safely, ask your supervisor for guidance and/or training. And if you're assigned a power tool that you haven't operated before, tell your supervisor so that they can train you on the safe and proper use of the tool. Being responsible and asking those questions is a sign of maturity and being a responsible worker. Bottom line, never be embarrassed to ask questions. We can all learn from each other. Number 5, if a power tool is built for both hands to grip it while operating, then use both hands while operating it for your own safety. Number 6, don't operate any piece of equipment unless you are competent to do so and have authorization from your supervisor. Specific equipment such as forklifts, personal lifts, and earth-moving equipment such as track hose, mini excavators, and skid steers require some form of authorization, documented training, and/or certification prior to operating them. Number 7, pre-plan your work with safety at the focus. Follow any developed task hazard analysis plans, THAs. They will help you work safely. Number 8, use your phone for personal use only during breaks and lunch, never during work time. Get to a safe place before using it and stay put while using it. Number 9, dress appropriately. Loose-fitting clothing can be grabbed by power tools and hurt you. For the same reasons, keep any long hair bundled up and safe. Number 10, tag out of service any damaged or defective tool or equipment and notify your supervisor. Number 11, follow our safety rules 100% of the time. We don't want to see you get hurt, period. To assure safety, let's talk about someone called a competent person. A competent person is required by OSHA to assure our safety while working. One of the several SPC designated competent persons on your job site will be your supervisor. Going forward in this video, if we are speaking about your supervisor performing duties, we are referring to the supervisor in terms of being a competent person. The competent person is required to make frequent and regular job site inspections to identify and correct hazards. We require a documented inspection of the job site by a competent person at least once each week, and undocumented daily inspections of the job site by a competent person for the rest of the week. To boil it down, a competent person is there to maintain safety, to train, to inspect, and to observe work processes while work is being performed. The competent person must 1, recognize what is safe and unsafe, 2, know how to make something that's unsafe, safe. And 3, have the authority of SPC to make something that's unsafe, safe, including stopping work until a hazard is corrected. Training by the competent person is one way to make something unsafe, safe. For example, it would be unsafe for a worker to use a reciprocating saw without any training. The competent person would train and then observe the worker using the reciprocating saw correctly and safely. Stopping work is another way for the competent person to make something unsafe, safe. For example, a worker uses a ladder unsafely, so the competent person stops the worker and addresses the unsafe work, making it safe. Requiring a guardrail cable to be tightened, removing a power tool with a missing ground, a damaged ladder or damaged extension cable from service, and tagging them out. These would be other ways that the competent person makes something unsafe, safe. Instructing all workers to avoid an area that is unsafe and putting up danger tape is yet another way a competent person makes an unsafe area safe. Bottom line, the ultimate job of the competent person is to make sure things stay safe for everyone. Specific training or training verification is required for almost everything we do. Your supervisor may ask you some questions or ask you to demonstrate safe operation of a tool or piece of equipment before authorizing you to use it. Bottom line, your supervisor is invested in your safety. They must verify that you know how to do your work safely, train you to work safely, and make sure you understand and follow basic safe work requirements prior to starting work. So, what are some basic safe work requirements? 1. The use, care, and inspection of issued PPE. 2. Fall exposure identification. 3. Fall protection. 4. Ladder safety. 5. Hand and power tool safety. 6. Electrical safety. 7. Hazard communication program. 8. Confined space work. 9. Trench and excavation safety. 10. Drilling, grinding, or cutting concrete products. 11. Lift operation. 12. Forklift. 13. Earth moving equipment. 14. Tamp operation. Hazard recognition and avoidance is paramount to everyone's safety. You need to learn how to identify hazards and properly address those hazards. Pay particular attention to fall, electrical, trenching, and struck by hazards, as these are the things that cause most of the injuries on a construction site. Look around you for hazards before you begin work and whenever you move from one work area to another. Carefully check all of your tools and equipment, including ladders, before using them and again at the end of the day. Immediately remove from service and tag out anything damaged. Always pay attention to housekeeping. A cluttered space is dangerous. Keep your work area clean and free of tripping hazards. Make sure all floor stub-ups are marked with bright paint. Have enough lighting to work safely. If you don't, request task lighting. Only use stairs with guardrails and treads fully filled. If the permanent stairs aren't ready to use yet, use the access ladder. Make sure it is tied off to prevent falling, and the bottom and top areas are free from hazards or things blocking safe access, such as railing or cabling. When entering a multi-level area, ask yourself, do above-ground areas have guardrails, mid-rails, and a toe board? Are all holes in the floor securely covered and labeled hole? Are there any overhead hazards or openings where tools and materials may fall or strike? Are there unsecured materials above, or piping or equipment being installed overhead? If so, avoid the area. Is the area you are entering considered a confined space, like elevator pits and crawl spaces? Do you see any hazards in or around the confined space? If using chemicals or materials, then identify and understand their hazards before use. Don't go onto a roof until told by your supervisor. The roof perimeter must have a parapet wall at least 39 inches tall, or a guardrail system, or fall protection is required. A rare exception is a control zone, or CZ. It's where perimeter rope and flagging is installed, but only with safety department's pre-approval. Pay attention to construction over exit doors on the outside. If there is no overhead protection in place, avoid that exit door and use another. And immediately notify your supervisor so that danger tape can be erected and the GC notified so that others aren't exposed. Notify your supervisor of any hazards you identify but can't correct and avoid them until they are addressed. Your personal protective equipment, PPE, is your first line of defense. You'll be issued a hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, and a safety vest, and they must be worn while on an SPC job site. To protect your feet, you must wear safety-toed boots, not shoes, that come above your ankle and they must stay laced to the top. Don't wear your hard hat backwards unless required due to an attachment. You must wear safety glasses. Your street glasses aren't safe and could be easily damaged. SPC offers a prescription safety glasses program that saves you considerable money. We use an industrial safety glass supplier, and SPC pays for a portion of the purchase on an annual basis, and they come with a 1-year warranty, so don't ruin your street glasses or risk injury. To learn about this program, please contact HR. To avoid trips or falls, only wear clear safety glasses inside of a building, never tinted. Always wear a face shield over your safety glasses when grinding and when performing overhead work, such as drilling, cutting, and soldering or brazing. Inspect the welding shield every day before beginning work to make sure the tinted lens isn't cracked and the welding shield is in good condition. To protect your upper foot bones, metatarsal protection is required whenever operating a tamp. We also issue protective gloves appropriate to your work. For example, cut resistant for working with sharp materials, liquid resistant for working with solvent, and leather gloves for work around hot materials. We provide and highly suggest hearing protection when working around loud, uncomfortable noises. Our voluntary respiratory protection program is simple to use. This program was developed by OSHA and allows you to wear a 2-strap N95 dust mask for nuisance dusts. Your supervisor will cover this voluntary program before you begin work. Make sure you fully understand the program before signing. Job sites require a keen eye for fall exposures. Remember the 6-foot rule. Fall protection of some kind is required anytime you are exposed to a fall from a walking working surface of 6 feet or more. A walking working surface is any surface, excluding scaffolds and ladders, on which you can stand and work. This includes floors, low-slope roofs, and equipment such as air handlers and package boilers. Guardrails are the most effective protection for workers in many instances. The top rail should be 42 inches above the walking working surface, plus or minus 3 inches. The mid-rail should be midway between the top rail and the walking working surface at around 21 inches. If used, the guardrail cabling should be tight with no slack, and top rail cabling should be flagged with bright tape every 6 feet. Never work near a slack guardrail and immediately report it to your supervisor. All floor penetrations must be securely covered and marked hole. A hole is defined by OSHA as being at least 2 inches wide, and it does not have to go all completely through the floor, meaning it could be a shallow hole. Never work around an unguarded floor opening. There are times where we must work in unguarded areas, such as on top of equipment or job site roofs. In those cases, we use a personal fall arrest system, or PFAS. It includes a harness properly tied off to an approved anchor point, a tie-off point, and a lanyard. You must be trained by an SPC designated competent person prior to using a PFAS. Your supervisor will give you additional training on PFAS use, including how to properly inspect, adjust, and wear a harness, lanyard selection and use, identification of appropriate attachment points, and selection of appropriate anchorage equipment. The competent person must prescribe the PFAS components for your use, including the actual attachment point location. You should never use a shock-absorbing lanyard if your tie-off point is 18 feet or less above the walking working surface. In that case, the use of a retractable lanyard, as specified by the competent person, would be the best choice. Bottom line, when working more than 6 feet above any walking working surface, you must have some form of fall protection, period. Never step up on the top rung or up on top of the stepladder, and never exceed the markings on the ladder. Never lean a stepladder. When using a ladder near an open edge or hole where you could fall more than 6 feet, remember this simple rule: either tie yourself off or keep the ladder away from the hazard a total of the ladder height plus 4 feet. For example, a 10-foot ladder should be 14 feet away from the fall hazard. Never turn your back to a ladder. Always face forward. Don't overreach. Keep your belt buckle inside of the ladder rails. If you can't safely reach something, get down and move the ladder. Climb the ladder correctly. Keep one hand free and wrapped around the side rail at all times, sliding your hand up the back of the rail as you climb and down as you descend. Don't climb with anything heavy. Use a lifting device, rope, or help from others. For stability, always secure an extension ladder at the top before use. Keep the areas at the bottom of all ladders clear of trip or slip hazards. And don't exit the top of an extension ladder unless the exit is clear of obstructions. Remember, at SPC, the extension ladder must extend past the landing 4 feet, except in rare cases where you only have 3 feet above the landing when fully extended. 3 feet is the OSHA minimum requirement. All portable ladders must be fiberglass and rated heavy-duty Type 1A, 300 pounds or higher. Do not use a ladder that is rated below your weight, including your carried tools. SPC does not allow the use of either metal or wooden ladders. Inspect ladders twice a day, before use and at the end of the day. Are any parts of the ladder bent, cracked, drilled, or otherwise weakened or damaged? For step ladders, are the spreader rivets worn? Are the stickers legible? Tag the ladder out of service if found to be damaged or defective. You must be trained in scaffold hazard recognition and avoidance by your supervisor before using a scaffold. Do not use another trade scaffold unless 1. You have their permission, and 2. It has been inspected and tagged as good for the day of the use. A competent person must inspect the scaffolding daily before use to identify any damaged or weakened scaffold parts. You may hear a personal lift referred to as a Mobile Elevated Work Platform, or MEWP. While in a lift, you must use an approved retractable lanyard attached to your harness and then attached to one of the lift manufacturer's designated attachment points. You will be trained on the use of this personal fall arrest system prior to working in a lift. Also, the operator must train you to lower the lift in case they cannot. The operator is responsible for ensuring every occupant in the platform knows how to safely work on the lift. And there must be someone on the ground who can return elevated workers to the ground in case of a malfunction or emergency. You must receive classroom training, be observed to safely operate the lift, and be authorized by your supervisor before operating a lift. Operate the lift according to the manufacturer's instructions as found in the operator's manual. Use the equipment's operator manual to perform the daily inspection. Inspect the harness, retractable lanyard, lift, and work area daily before beginning work, and tag out of service immediately if any damage or defect is discovered. Never loan an SPC lift to another trade. Our plug-in tools can only get power from a GFCI protected power source, period. If the receptacle isn't GFCI protected, use a GFCI pigtail at the power source. You should test the GFCI daily before use, and never allow cords to lay in water. Pay attention to the grips on power tools. If the power tool has a place for both of your hands, then both hands should be on it at all times during use. Only workers that are certified and have their card with them can operate a powder-actuated tool. If you aren't certified or don't have your card, don't touch it. Always follow the manufacturer and OSHA's requirements when operating. Use hand tools only for their intended purpose. Inspect your tools and cords before use at the beginning of the day, and again when you take them up at the end of the day. Look for missing ground blades and damaged cord sheathing. Immediately tag out of service any tool or cord found to be damaged or defective with "Do Not Use" on the tag, and let your supervisor know so that a replacement can be arranged and the damaged tool or cord removed from the site. You will be trained by your supervisor in trench safety before being assigned trench work. Trench work will be performed only under the direct supervision of a competent person. At SPC, a trench can be dug straight down to a maximum of 4 feet and the next foot sloped back, but only if the CP says the trench is stable. A trench deeper than 5 feet must either be sloped or use a trench box in the work area. Rising water requires you to immediately get out of the trench. Don't go in if you think the trench isn't safe, and get everyone out immediately if you decide it is unsafe while working in it. In the past, only things like manholes and tanks were considered confined spaces, but now it includes areas such as attics and crawl spaces, as well as inside of large air handlers and other devices large enough to enter. We will issue at least one air monitor for all confined space work. The monitor assures good air by checking the oxygen, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and explosive gases levels. Don't enter such areas unless there is a site-specific confined space plan in place and you have been trained on the plan. A competent person will perform this training. Chemicals and materials may present a health hazard to you if not used and handled correctly. We have an extensive hazard communication program, or HazCom, so that all workers know about the hazards of the chemicals and materials they are working with, along with how to protect yourself. Your supervisor will go over the HazCom manual with you before beginning work at SPC, including the location of the HazCom manual on the job site, everyone's responsibilities, how to read a safety data sheet, or SDS, the Globally Harmonized System, or GHS, and accompanying pictograms, along with specific go-to sections in the SDS. It's important to understand the health hazards associated with silica dust generation so that you can protect yourself. Silica dust is created by drilling, chipping, or cutting various masonry materials, including concrete, block, and bricks. This dust consists of microscopic pieces of dust particles with sharp edges, and over time, breathing it can cause health issues. Always follow the SPC Silica Control Plan when drilling, coring, or cutting concrete or other masonry materials. The Silica Control Plan explains hazards and how to keep yourself safe. You will receive training on the plan by a competent person before beginning work. Even though our plan has been designed to eliminate the requirement for a respirator, you might consider using an N95 dust mask under our voluntary program for protection against nuisance dusts. Hot work includes welding, soldering, brazing, grinding, and any other operation that produces heat, sparks, or hot debris. Hot work can cause a fire or damage to surrounding surfaces. Before performing any hot work, select and wear the proper PPE for the job. Always wear a face shield over your safety glasses when grinding and when performing overhead work such as drilling, cutting, and soldering or brazing. Make sure all flammables and combustibles are either removed from the area or properly protected in place. Have at least one number 10 ABC portable fire extinguisher available and in good working order within 20 feet of your work. A hot work permit may be required from the GC or owner prior to starting work. You must have a fire watch assigned to any hot work that could cause a fire. For hot work or fire watch, you must be trained prior to work on how to use a fire extinguisher using the PASS method: pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Remember, a fire extinguisher should only be used on a small fire in its early stages. You are not required to use a fire extinguisher. Your safety should always come first, and your supervisor will train you on the proper use and monthly inspection of a fire extinguisher. Before performing any welding, select protective clothing, gloves, and welding hood. Check the first 10 feet of welding length from the stinger to the welding machine. It must be free of damage and repair. For stainless steel welding, a portable HEPA welding collection vacuum is required. Never open a gas valve more than 1.5 turns to allow it to be turned off quickly. Store oxygen cylinders at least 20 feet away from any fuel source: acetylene, gasoline, diesel fuel, propane, etc. Cylinders must always be secured in an upright position. Never lay a cylinder down. Inspect everything daily before use and tag out any defective or damaged tools or equipment. When handling materials, plan before you pick up. Consider weight, size, shape, path of travel, and set down locations. Avoid moving loads by hand whenever possible, and 50 to 75 pounds should be the maximum you attempt to pick up. Lift with your legs, not with your back. Bend your knees and keep your back straight. Hold the object close to the body and lift by straightening the legs. When changing direction, turn with your feet, not your back, and always utilize mechanical means to lift heavy objects. All riggers and signalmen are required to be trained and certified. Never perform either function unless trained and certified by SPC. All forklift operators are required to be trained and certified. This certification is good for 3 years. Never operate a forklift unless trained and currently certified by SPC. Toolbox safety talks are done weekly on the job site to reinforce our safety training and culture, and give you a chance to ask questions and to point out hazards. Usually a lead mechanic, foreman, or superintendent will conduct a weekly toolbox safety talk. Working in the heat can hurt you, so pay attention to what your body is telling you. Keep hydrated. Your thirst mechanism is about 20 minutes behind your body's needs, so you can feel thirsty well after being dehydrated. Watch out for symptoms. If you feel dizzy, weak, have a headache, blurred vision, nausea, staggering, look pale, or are red-faced with a severe headache, tell your supervisor immediately. Get cooled off and drink water. And if you don't get better, ask for medical attention. Keep in mind that you can become dehydrated in cold weather too. There will be drinking water in a closed container with a spigot and throwaway paper cups provided on the job site. Ice will be added to the containers in the summer, and there may be jobs where the superintendent provides you with bottled water. During cold weather, select proper clothing for cold, wet, and windy conditions, and bring extra if you might get wet. Layer clothing to adjust for changing temperatures. Wear a hard hat liner and gloves. Take frequent short breaks in warm, dry shelters to allow the body to warm up. Perform work during the warmest part of the day. Extra energy is needed to keep muscles warm, so avoid exhaustion or fatigue. The Lockout Tagout Program, or LOTO, helps protect you from energy stored in equipment, piping, and other devices. You will be trained on our Lockout Tagout program specific to your work before starting. Normally, a competent person will perform LOTO tasks, such as valving out steam lines, venting piping following pneumatic pressure testing, and other such forms of energy isolation. Never drive an SPC vehicle unless authorized to do so. Approval must come from HR and safety. All occupants must wear a seatbelt while the vehicle is in motion. MVRs are run at least annually, and driving authorization may be withdrawn by SPC at any time. Each vehicle is continuously monitored, including speed, location, time of use, and driver's actions like acceleration, braking, or swerving. Be courteous on the road. Drive the posted speed limit unless other conditions mandate that you drive slower, and no personal use of the vehicle. If someone is badly injured or otherwise in medical trouble, immediately call 911 and let your supervisor and the GC's superintendent know. Report all injuries immediately to your supervisor, no matter how minor, before leaving the job site. Drug screening will be required with any work-related accident or injury. We have a light-duty return-to-work policy so that you don't miss any pay for work-related injury. Unless you miss more than a week, workers' compensation won't pay for the first week out of work. If you are written out for less than that, we can help. Always ask the treating physician if they can write you back to work on light duty. We will do our very best to put you back to work so that you don't miss any pay. Your supervisor will go over the following with you before you begin work. Correct use of your issued PPE, SPC Safety Manual or the Site-Specific Safety Plan, SPC HazCom Manual, SPC Site-Specific Silica Control Plan, how to wear a fall protection harness, lanyard selection, and proper attachment point identification, SPC Voluntary Respiratory Protection Program Sign-Off, fire extinguisher use and inspection, any other safety rules specific to this job, and the orientation sign-off sheet. We can identify and eliminate hazards by all of us, SPC staff, contractors, and subcontractors, shouldering safety responsibilities together. That's how SPC provides quality services while maintaining the safety and health of our construction community. Remember, your safety begins and ends with you.